Hello Evertonians and welcome to the All Together Now podcast. As you can see here, we're at the Bramley Moore Pub on the banks of the Rotherham Mersey. If you're tuning in to us on SoundCloud, Acast, iTunes, I could go on forever and ever where you can find us. Right, I'm Tony Scott, as ever, joined by Greg O'Keefe, my co-host, and David Hughes. And on this week's episode, lots and lots to talk about. Our new signing, Fabian Delph, we'll give our thoughts on him and what next for the Just a Ghana guy and Tom Davies. Also, Ademola Lookman looks all set to return to Germany for €23 million. Are we selling him on the cheap in this current market? Or are we giving him away? Let's find out. And also, we're just 3 weeks away until Everton kick off their Premier League campaign against Crystal Palace. Is it time to worry over the lacking striking options up front? And also, Marco Silva spoke this week about his desire to sign a right back in the next 20 days. David will run us through some targets to look out for. And also, it's a big week for the Blues off the pitch, as you'll fully well know. Also, we got the big things coming up, like the stadium, and also big news this week with the extended deals with USM Holdings and also Fratelli Beretta. And also, there's interesting news just before we started to record about Sportspesa. So, a lot to cram in the next 35 to 40 minutes. Guys, straight away, Fabian Delph was our third big signing so far this summer. Greg, you can have first shot on him. Happy with it?
I think last podcast we were talking about the off chance of it, weren't we? And apparently we were all very negative and downbeat, or certainly I was reminded of when he signed. What I would say is I must have been in a stinking mood because in hindsight it's not a bad addition to the squad at all, especially for the price that we paid for him. You know, he's obviously got the experience. People who've watched the Man City documentary on Amazon know that he's a leader in the dressing room, or seems to be a lead in the dressing room that we probably lack to an extent. A talker, a mouth. Maybe haven't had one really since the likes of Phil Neville. He's a good player. He uses the ball well. Marco Silva's spoken about him being a box-to-box player and how he might see him fitting into a midfield. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see what it makes or what it means for the likes of Tom Davies or Morgan Schneiderlin. But yeah, overall, despite what I said last time, for $8.5 million, I think it's a good sign.
David, 29-year-olds, obviously, we're not signing a young player, are we, anymore? Is this exactly what Everton need? An experienced old head, who obviously Greg's just spoke well of there, who's a bit of a leader in the dressing room, as we've seen on them documentaries. Is that exactly what Everton need? The likes of Phil Jagielka going out the door, someone of that order?
Potentially, yeah. I think I kind of sympathise with you, Greg, because a lot of us were in the same boat, but for $8 million, I think that's basically what sweetens the deal. Anything under $15 million for proven quality in the Premier League is a steal in this market. So I think it was a good signing. It is going to be strange to see how he fits in the first 11, but maybe as a testament to him, I think he's so versatile that we've basically gained a play in several positions on the pitch. You know, he can kind of cover in full-back positions. He can play midfield, which he is a traditional midfielder. So yeah, on the whole, I think it's a good signing. Yeah, good player to have on the side. Hopefully it turns out well. I'd like to see something similar to what happened with James Milner at Liverpool. It looks, you know, he come at a similar time in his career. It looked like a backward step at the time, and he's gone on to be a phenomenal, a fantastic sign, I'll say. So we'll wait and see.
Is his lack of game time, Greg, a concern that he's had over the past 4 years? Now, just a couple of appearance stats that we got just before we recorded. 11 appearances last season for Manchester City in the league. 22 the season before, which is quite good because Manchester City did win the league that year as well. 7 appearances in 2016 and 17 appearances in the 2015 season. So not many there, is there?
Look, I mean, his injury record, I think that's one of the things I was moaning about last week, is it hasn't been brilliant. So maybe that's factored into the price. We're not paid a premium for him, despite being just on the right side of his 30s. He's not really hit that landmark yet when a player really starts to depreciate in value. I think it probably is because of, as you've just read, the lack of game time he's had. We've just got to hope, and touch wood, that's behind him. And he can play more like your 23, 24, 25 games. And obviously, as I said earlier, we have got options around him in younger legs and Davies who can come on in games and, you know, add that vitality and those fresh legs. And Schneiderlin, we were chatting about briefly, weren't we, before we started recording, is still a bit of a mystery to me, because I'm not sure what that means for him. And he might have said, finishing the season, I've done enough to really have played my way back into, if not a definite starter, then consideration most weeks. And now I don't know where he is again now. But yeah, those stats over his appearances are a little bit of a concern. We've just got to hope that he's managed well and that he's managed to get him fit. Interesting as well, by the way, that Everton had a big shake-up of their medical staff this week, didn't they? Got rid of Matt Taberner, who'd been there for a good few years, and this Portuguese guy who Silva's brought in has obviously got his own thoughts on how they're going to go forward. So let's hope those thoughts equal a very fit Fabian Delph playing as much as we need him.
Yeah, David, 61 matches missed through injury over the past 4 seasons. That has got to be a massive concern, hasn't it?
Yeah, is that all related to
all they are injury related, just injury related.
Yeah, it is a concern. It's something that's plagued his career for a little while. So we'll wait and see. It's bizarre injuries. You can sometimes get a new lease of life, kind of joining a new club, and these injuries seem to disappear. So I'm hoping
that's like mental.
But yeah, potentially, yeah, it's a big part of it. And just on the games he's missed, on top of that, he's playing for the best team in probably Europe, for the manager who enjoys rotating his team at the best of times. So I wouldn't look too much into that. Yeah, the injuries are a concern, but new club. Let's see how he gets on.
But we are signing a winner here, aren't we? Obviously won the Premier League with Manchester City twice, won the FA Cup as well, over 20 England caps as well. So he's not one of these players who just finds a manager and who likes him. Like obviously Gareth Southgate, he plays him quite a lot as well. He plays in last summer's World Cup. So I think he's... What are you looking for in a midfielder? And you're going to touch on it just briefly. You found a little bit of a tactic Everton using obviously in pre-season. Do you think Delph is that type of player that could possibly come to the fore in the way Everton are going to play this pre-season? Because for the viewers and the listeners, Everton have obviously found a little bit of a niche in this tactic that they're using from the goal kicks, aren't they?
Potentially, mate, but I think it's funny just to own this. That clip was Chelsea.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice one. He's ruined it. But no, do you think he's that type of player to go and get the ball from the centre backs and the goalkeeper?
He always wants the ball, doesn't he? So I don't see why not. I don't see why he can't be that player. He's got a good passing range on him. And certainly in the difficult moments, we've seen enough of them over the past 2 seasons. Too many players have gone missing. We saw it between Christmas time and March last season. The year before was a roller coaster, wasn't it? And we hoped the likes of Rooney, when he come in, he was going to be that kind of character, and he never was for whatever reason. Delph could be, because you do need someone to pull you through. Because, and maybe we'll touch on this more when we get into talking about Lookman, but people completely underestimate how important the mental aspect is of the game, and you do need those characters within the dressing room, and for too long Everton haven't had them, so fingers crossed Delph can be that guy.
Well, he was someone that Everton were, in my opinion, were missing badly when we went on that bad run after the Merseyside derby. We went on a horrendous run of results, didn't we? And we just had no one with a bit of backbone in that team. And obviously I think we didn't win a game for about... It was the best part of 10 games on the run after that Pickford error, wasn't it? So do you think Silva signed him on the basis of playing him in centre midfield, Greg? Because he spoke to this week, Silva, hasn't he, about he's not going to be a replacement for just a guy, he's going to be a midfielder. Yeah. Can Guy and Delph play in the same team?
But then where's Gomez?
Exactly.
And if you take into account that you consider Sigurdsson as like a midfielder as well, you know, probably not. I mean, I think, being realistic, they're still prepared to lose Guy.
I think so, yeah.
Well, I think so. Obviously, they'd hope they don't. But I think it's looking pretty clustered in that engine room at the moment.
Tom Davies in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Schneiderlin, of course, we've mentioned. I hope not. Really hope not, for everything that we said last week. But yeah, you know, there was that. We were questioning their, not bottle, but the resilience maybe, and the toughness mentally, weren't we, after that run? And obviously it was the nadir was Millwall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, they just showed that tendency to crumble. And fair play to them and the manager. They managed to get it back and they finished so strongly. But having winners in the team, the more winners you have, the better, I suppose. And I just hope that with Rooney, it's interesting that you mentioned Rooney, it always felt that he'd been given a guarantee that he'd play a lot, and then the less he played, the more unrest he felt, and the more he was like spitting his dummy out and
less of a leader.
Yeah, less of a leader. So maybe then we didn't get the benefit of his experience.
Yeah.
I wonder what Delph's being told about what he'll play, because he must have come to play football, mustn't he?
Of course, yeah.
He hasn't come.
Just left Manchester City for one reason.
He hasn't left it. I
He
doubt
could have
he's
done that
left
at
for-
City.
Exactly. I doubt he's left for money. So it's a good sign that he's come and he's said all the right things about wanting to carry on winning things and what have you. So it'd be interesting to know what Silva said to him really about how often he will play.
If Guy does stay and you've got Delph and you've got Gomez and you've got Schneiderlin, what next now for Tom Davies? Do you think alone is the best option for his development?
For me, yeah, probably. I think I like the idea of keeping him in the side and you know, earning his place in the side, staying there. But I just can't see how he gets in that team.
Does he get in the squad even?
It's tough. I mean, I think you do at various points because we know what happens, injuries, suspensions and things.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it probably speaks volumes that Silva's felt the need to go out and buy someone like Delph in the summer about where Davies is in his pecking order. Why do you think?
I think it could be better for Davies to go out on loan.
Premier League or
maybe to an Aston Villa.
Yeah,
someone.
For me, a waste of time would be a move out of the country or to a lower league. I think I want him to have some Premier League experience because we still don't know how good he is. I actually don't even know his best position at the moment. I couldn't tell you if he's better, you know, box to box, defensively, attacking midfielder. I don't actually know what formation he'd work best in. He's considering he broke into the side about, was it 2.5 years ago or whatever, I'm not sure, but in that time I still feel like he's a bit of an unknown quantity. So yeah, let's go and see what he can do.
I remember going to Southport with you, Greg. Remember when we seen him many years ago?
Yeah.
I think it was David Moyes was currently manager at the time. I think that's how far we're going back, or even maybe Roberto Martinez.
I think it was just the start.
It was just the start of Martinez, and we went to watch Everton under 23s against Southport in a pre-season friendly, wasn't it? Yeah. And you could just see Davies stuck out miles away, and we just came back. And I remember telling my dad, Everton have got one there, the next one off the academy, Tom Davies, and obviously based on the scene, Manchester City and Everton was going well.
So you two the jinx then?
Yeah. It's us. And we just feel he just hasn't. And you want him to do well so much, don't you? Because he gets the club, he's a Scouser, he embraces Everton, he's an Evertonian, he's got Evertonian running through his family, obviously with his uncle playing for Everton, so he's got everything for him that you want to be a success at the club. But it's just, I see his opportunities this season, and he's got 4 midfielders ahead of him. 4. I just don't see a place for him, let alone in the matchday squad. And it's going to be tough. He's going to have to rely on injuries and suspensions, but who knows what will happen.
Thinking back to that afternoon, and we had the conversation, I think you said first, and the blonde lad the socks low stands out. He's busy, he's getting around the pitch, he's confident, he's stamping his authority on the game, and they're the qualities that have stayed with him. But what we sort of haven't seen develop is like another layer to his game, have we? We haven't seen, for example, the creative side of it. Yeah, the goals, the things that really are going to get him into a top 6, certainly in terms of aspirations, a top 6 Premier League midfield. So yeah, he just hasn't kicked. I feel like he just hasn't kicked on enough.
If the 4 stay, Guy, Schneiderlin, obviously Gomez, and Delph now, do you see a place for Davies in the squad?
Like David, I'd probably keep him unless there's a loan move that fits Everton's hopes of developing him as a player. You know, I wouldn't just pack him off for the sake of it, because you know he still might be needed. You can get some. You can just get those unlucky periods where you get a couple of it. Only needs the likes of Gomez to get injured and Delph, for example, and then you're looking around at options and what have you. So unless it's one that's really going to kick him on, keep him.
From one young player to another, Ademola Lookman looks set to return to Germany. Obviously, there was sources close to Sky this weekend. They reported a €23 million bid being apparently accepted. It looks though Lookman will go to Germany. I think we all know he's going to be leaving the club. Is €23 million too cheap in this current market, David?
It's difficult, to be honest. I think on the surface it can be, given that what type of player he can become. Because for me, if he was in the right environment, he can become an elite player. But at the same time, who are Leipzig bidding against? They're not really bidding against with anyone, are they? So it's basically them versus Everton. So they have a transfer fee they want to pay. Everton know that he's probably not going to be used next season, so they're trying to get as much money as they can. But if they keep going back saying 35, 40 mil, or even 30 million, Leipzig probably have a ceiling where they know they hold all the cards and they can cut it off at whatever they are now.
So Everton are doubling the money here for a player who's started no more than 10 games at least that I can think of. Is it good business to double your money on a player that's played a handful of games for you?
Well, on the surface of it, yeah, but it depends how you look at it, doesn't it? And we went through it in length, didn't we, last week? But obviously, with circumstances haven't changed, is it lose-lose? Is it win-win? Obviously, that debate raged on Twitter. This fella got it in the neck for suggesting that he was disappointed with the potential move, and I could empathise with him really. It seems a shame. All I'd say, at the risk of repeating myself, is that I really hope there's a healthy sell-on clause, because that's a great point. There's no auction for him. There's no other clubs trying to smash Leipzig out the water. So it's not as if Leipzig are going off. They've probably scouted him last season, albeit I don't know when they've seen him play. But they're going off that successful season on loan, aren't they? And what they believe is his potential. There's no Premier League clubs trying to scupper the move. There's no other European clubs. And that maybe tells you something. So let's just hope that there's a good sell-on clause and we don't have another Jadon Sancho coming back to bite us on the backside.
That can't be the best of things.
No.
Well, just with 3 weeks away until Everton kick the first ball at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace, is it time to worry, Greg, about the lack of options up front? Now I say this because we're nearly midway into pre-season coming up towards.
Yeah.
Oumar Niasse is leading the line. It's not ideal. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, obviously there's pictures of him this week circulating on social media that he's obviously trying to keep fit while he's on holiday, so to speak. So it's not ideal. Cenk Tosun's injured and Oumar Niasse is leading the line. It's not ideal 3 weeks going into the Premier League game, is it?
Nope. Disaster. It is really. You know, Cardiff got relegated last year, and I've spoke to a fair few Cardiff fans since May, and they've put him up there with one of the worst strikers they've ever seen. Yeah. So when you actually just put that into perspective, as it is now, he's leading our line, and pre-season is important. You know, you want to be building a little bit of momentum and building on your playing style, and you want to have an idea of your best team. And as it stands, we're really missing a striker. So yeah, it is a little bit alarming. One thing I will say is it seems like a lot of clubs aren't doing a lot of movements at the moment. Well, maybe Leicester, West Ham, but certainly top clubs aren't. But that's
the worry though, isn't it, David? That the teams around us have got centre forwards and they're all buying players. I know we're buying players, but centre forwards is key.
Oh, it is. It's going to be such a big season this year, because it feels like on one hand the door's open for top six, but on the other hand there's about 3 or 4 teams trying to push their way in there, and they all seem to be doing a little bit better.
And West Ham are one of those teams, aren't they? And you know, I can't pretend to think that I would have bitten your arm off for Sebastian Haller before they were interested in him. I sort of vaguely knew that he was a name in the sort of like much more into the French setup or what have you, but I didn't think he'd be going for that sort of money. However, and I know they've probably got an influx of cash from on how to going, and did they get a transfer fee for that?
I think it was about 20 odd million. They wanted more, but
okay, but so they've had a little bit of a drop, sort of like windfall from that. Nevertheless, should we be competing for his signature, arguably, or should we? Brands will have his targets, so why is it taken to now?
Well, Mandzukic has been mentioned, hasn't he? Is he? For me, he doesn't seem the type of striker that would suit Everton. And he'll go against everything that Everton are trying to do. They've got young players. I know they've signed Delph for a bit of experience, I get that. But they've got like this Charlotteson and obviously all these types of young players in there that are exciting to watch. And Calvert-Lewin's up there as well. And obviously Gomez, he's not in his 30s, is he? So they've got quite a young team. It's a worry for me is that if they're targeting players I know, don't get me wrong, he's a good footballer, I like him, but is he going to score 20 league goals in the Premier League next season, Mandzukic? Is he going to be up front for us in 3 or 4 years' time? I worry about that. I want a centre forward who's going to be our number 9 for the next 2 or 3 seasons. I know it's very difficult to say in this modern day era of football where players can just go from club to club. I get all that, but I'd like us to go, do you know what? He's our number 9 every single week. We're paying 30 to 40 million for him, and he's young, he's ambitious, he's going to run through a brick wall for it, he's going to score 15 to 20. That's who I want. I don't want a washed up centre forward who can't run.
Yeah.
And although he may have the experience and goals in the Champions League from years gone by, I don't want that. We've had that before. We've had all the old schools and it hasn't served us anything.
No.
I want a young striker who's going to deliver. And I know that's difficult to get. I know that we're not the only club that's looking out for a striker. I get all that. But that's why Marcel Brands is looking for these types of players. That's why he's paid handsomely to go and find these. He's done a fantastic job so far. But this is the most important one. This was the difference between Everton finishing 7th or 8th where they finished last season to Arsenal finishing exactly where they finished. In my opinion, I don't think there's no difference between the Everton and Arsenal teams, like for like, man for man, until you get into that top half of the pitch and they've got Lacazette and they've got Aubameyang and we've got Cenk Tosun and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and that is the difference for me.
Can I just check, do you lump Diego Costa in with Mandzukic as well?
He's not ideal. Don't get me wrong, he'd be great for a season or so, but I want someone right now who's going to set our bet. We see a project here at Everton, or young lads, and the way Silva wants to play, and this is us. It took us a while with the likes of Martinez leaving us in limbo with big signs that we can't still shift. You've got Koeman and Walsh's mess, and you've got Silva who's come in, and Brands who's done a fantastic job so far, and we all can identify the way we're playing. We're all enjoying going the match, crowds are bouncing, and this is the way we're playing. I don't want a washed up centre forwards up front just to fill a couple of gaps in for the season.
Would you feel aggrieved if, say, the striker didn't come in, but they start talking about playing Richarlison in a more central role?
I feel aggrieved. This has been going on for years, Greg, this centre forward mess. It's been going on since Romelu Lukaku left. And if they haven't had time to sign a centre forward of this, well, we knew last season. He knew Cenk Tosun weren't good enough last season. He put Richarlison up front at times, even when Calvert-Lewin was injured, etc. So they've known this for a long while. They'll have been scouting centre forwards all over the globe. You can't leave it until the last minute to sign a centre forward. With what, 3 weeks ago? I know there's other areas where they need to get signings. I get all that. Gomez was a necessity because of the situation in Barcelona. I get all that. But right now, Everton should be knocking on everyone's door who they've scouted over the last couple of years. Get that centre forward.
I mean, you'll know this as well. The problem that we've got, and of course you'll recognise it from past patterns, is that for those sort of premium players, sometimes unless you've got money's no object, or you've got someone lined up like Haller, sometimes the business just happens so late in the window these days, doesn't it? And it relies on other deals happening, and the market generally has been a bit sluggish, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the deals are ticked over, and there've been big deals like Delete going to Juve, and sometimes they can kick off a chain of transfers that you wouldn't even necessarily envisage when a player from, let's say, Ajax goes to Juve. But generally, players haven't been flying off the shelves, and it does tend to pick up momentum towards the end of the window. Now, I always hoped that Brands his experience would help us to circumnavigate that last minute thing but maybe that's just the market, as opposed to even the best director of football in the world at a club with a budget has to play that game.
But there's another slant to that, Greg, is that Liverpool don't really have to improve. Manchester City have bought one player, they don't really have to improve. Tottenham, arguably the third best team in the league. Chelsea roundabouts, they're obviously going through a period where they're having to develop, obviously under Lampard. The teams around us, Manchester United spent 65 million, haven't they, so far? Winger from Swansea and Wan-Bissaka. So they spent the best part of 70 million. Leicester spent a few quid, they're around us. West Ham spent a few quid. The teams around us are spending. I totally agree with what Greg's saying, that there's not much cash being splashed about, but the teams around us are spending it big, and the teams well above our league at the moment, there's no need to. So that's the worry for me, is that we're going to have to pull our fingers out and get a centre forward soon.
Yeah,
you agree?
I mean, yeah, it's it's tough to add anything really to the conversation on it.
May as well just get off then.
Yeah, been waiting to.
Wait for me.
Yeah.
You'd be worth this waiting goal in a minute. Don't worry.
No, it's honestly, it is such a tough one. I think there's not many candidates out there. That's the big problem. You know, do we on one hand we want to avoid what you're saying about what you're saying about doing it so late, but then equally you don't want to then force through a move for 35-40 million for the wrong player. I think that's really important, and I wonder if they're basically saying, listen, here's our 3 targets. If we don't get these 3, we do with what we've got and we prepare for next season.
Can't do that after season 2.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, but and I agree, but at the same time, do you rush through and make a mistake, or is he thinking more long term?
Yeah.
You know, does he want to invest 40 million, which could have implications on seasons to come, on a play that he knows isn't going to be right when he's trying to build a project? So does he think, we might not be where we want to be competitive wise this season, but at least off the pitch we're still in a good position to get that right guy next season? Obviously I don't want that. I want to be challenging this season, but I just think if it's not the right deal, then does he think, alright, if he's not the right guy, then we'll make it work with what we have.
And I think I've got a lot of sympathy for that point of view. It's not one that will win much popularity in the mainstream of fans. And I can understand why as well.
We'll have thumbs down on YouTube as we speak.
As Tony said, it's almost like the striker search fatigue that we've got, because it's not a new situation and it's maddening. But if it was that easy, Brands would have sorted it by now. So, but it's interesting that they also want this wide player who is essentially a bit two-footed, who can contribute goals. So if you don't get the striker, you've got to get the wide player for me, and you've got to get more goals from midfield. Now, Sigurdsson was like a fantastic leading light and chipping in if you consider him a midfielder. Of course he's a midfielder, but he played very high up the pitch, didn't he?
Number 10.
But he had to offset the lack of goals from a centre forward, because we didn't really have one, albeit Dominic Calvert-Lewin, did a lot of things well. We just need more goals.
You've got to get both, Greg. You've got to get a winger on the centre.
Well, look, ideally, because we were talking about top 5, top 6, even on an off chance if we get really lucky and the fates align, top 4. You can forget about that if you haven't got those extra goals, as you said.
What do you think about the goals last season? 15 from Richarlison, 15 Sigurdsson, and then what?
Yeah.
You got an handful from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Bernard got 1 goal, was it?
Just the one,
and Gomez got 1.
2 shots on target.
Guy, nothing. So that's shocking. If Everton, that's stopping Everton from being definitely into a top 6 team. You've got to get that left side. Obviously, the other winger who's chipping in with 10 goals, and the centre forward who's chipping in with 15 at least.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. On that, then, I think we avoid bringing in anyone 33 years of age. We don't want him coming in. I think we'd still go to Juventus though. I think we really go all out for Keane then.
Do you like him?
Yeah, he's good. I've had a look at him. He's a good player, and last season he was averaging over a goal per 90 minutes, which is ludicrous really. Obviously that he hasn't had a lot of playing time, so I'm sure over a sustained period that would reduce slightly, but it's still a phenomenal scoring record. And you look at that Juventus side now and the way they're spending this market and the strength and depth that they've got now. I think now is the time to buy from Juventus, because I think they're trying to build almost a Galactico-like super team. I heard rumours of Neymar, but you look at whether that's true, don't know. But you look at that team now. There's so much quality around each single position that I just can't see Keane getting the game in there. And I think go. If you're going to talk about throwing money at someone, throw it at him. He's 20 years of age. You know, you can build it. You can build a future around him.
What type of player is he? I haven't seen much of him, to be honest.
I'd say he's quite physical up there, but he's a great finisher as well. So he can play that centre forward role. He doesn't need a striking partner. So if you want talking about Silva's preferred 4-2-3-1, he can play that role. I find myself naturally leaning towards a Lukaku type comparison, but I don't think it's fair, to be honest. I don't think they're the exact same type of player, but I like him, and I think he could be our marquee striker.
Hopefully, fingers crossed indeed. Well, Marco Silva did speak this week about his desire to sign a right back over the next 3 weeks. David, you're going to run us through some targets. Just before we do, Greg, is it as important as the centre forward, the right back situation for you?
No, not as important. It's very important going forward in terms of our development. Coleman, isn't, as we said, isn't getting any younger, and you do need the right-sided Dean. But if you said to me right now, look, the budget is this, we need a striker or a right-back, it's a no-brainer. You get your centre-forward, don't you? Coleman can do you another season. However, we always bang on about Brands and his acumen and what he brings. Let's hope he's got something up his sleeve.
Let's see
if
David has.
Yeah, we've got
David's runners, some runners and riders from the right back situation. Marking Silva,
obviously I'm not good enough to go off memory, so I always have my laptop in front of me.
I'm Marcel Hughes here.
Basically, what I did last night was just for a bit of fun, really. It's quite ironic that you said it. The right-sided Dean. I basically inputted Dean's key statistics last season to scout a right back. Ironically, nobody could match him in that position.
Interesting.
Across Europe's top 5 leagues.
Wow,
so,
I'm not surprised, really. He was that good.
Yeah. He really was. Yeah, he was great defensively attacking as well. So I had to adapt these a little bit, and I've also put it on Twitter, and I've had some good names in there. So I'll go on them in a little bit, and I go back onto my notifications. But a guy cut from Lyon, Leo Dubois, 24 years. He signed from Nantes last season on a free. And to be fair, he was their key right back. He was a big player. He played 34 appearances, 6 assists, 3 goals. Decent in defence, but really good passing. Key passing, really good. About 0.5 per 90 minutes, which is high. Look at Dean levels. The only issue is because he's so important in such a good side like Lyon, you'd wonder whether you'd be able to attract them. But I just wonder if you went in there with a bid of 15-20 million. Would they take that profit on a player they've had for the year? I don't know. What do you think?
Could offer him a big salary as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Lower the Premier League.
Yeah. No, the only thing is, for me, that kind of money, I'm thinking you want a replacement for Coleman rather than an understudy. Otherwise, it's a lot of money.
Are Lyon in the Champions League next season?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
That's going to be in their favour.
But I was having this conversation earlier with one of the scouting writers, and I was saying, is the Premier League still more of a draw? Even without Europe for these players, I don't know.
Yeah, possibly is, isn't it?
The first thing footballers will want is money. Whoever's offering the most money, you can talk about the law of Champions League, Premier League. If you've got the most Queen's Head, that's the end of the discussion. Yeah. Within an agent, within a chairman, within any player, if you've got the most money and you're offering it, bang, there you go. And that's why the big clubs with the big wages, with the most money, they get the best players. So in order to Everton to go and get a quality like that, they're going to have to offer them top talent.
And that's a good thing. I think these days, which we like, they're a lot more savvy than they were 2 seasons ago and just throwing it everywhere. But I think when push comes to shove, they can offer higher wages, can't they? Which, 5 years ago they couldn't do that. So maybe. Another one I like, Denzel Dumfries, 23, PSV, 6'2". Oof. Yeah, so very strong. 5 assists, 2 goals last season. Not as good at crossing the ball, but he's quite good at cutting back, like passing backwards. And I just really like that he's quite robust, but he's good at getting up and down. He's a perfect age. Would have been on Brands' radar, surely, being performing well at PSV player. And I actually didn't realise, which is pretty poor than me, but I didn't watch it, the Nations League. He played against England in that game, so he's in and around the Holland setup. And when you think they've from nowhere almost got a little bit of a golden generation again, so for him to be getting game time in big games for them, it's probably a testament to where he is as a player. Again, I feel like these players, you're looking 25 mil and below. Certainly from PSV, you'd like to be thinking maybe 15, 18 million.
Do you think you were right there, David? Greg, do you think Everton will pay that to... Because no one thought Luca Dean was going to be a straight shoe-in when we signed him last season. No one thought he was going to go, bang, that's a space, and that's it. He's keeping that all season. We all thought Baines was going to be in there for 10 or 15 games. Baines never got a sniff. So do you think Everton are looking at this go, hang on, if we can spend, as David's just touched on there, the 15 to 20 million on one of them players, he could take Coleman's place here. Doesn't matter if he's captain or not.
I mean, yeah, because it gets down to what we, at the top of this section where we were saying, do you sign someone who's just an understudy or someone who's got the potential to do a Dean, basically take Coleman's shirt? And you've got to really aim for the latter, haven't you? Because there are just understudies. I mean, it comes down to whether or not you would have just kept John Joe Kenny, for the sake of letting him go to Bundesliga. So you've got to sign someone who's got the potential to come and have that impact. You've got to. And really, as you say as well, Dean was as unknown. Well, look, he'd been at 2 top clubs, but obviously he hadn't had the playing time. And it was always the question mark, could he adapt to England? So there's an element of risk in it, isn't there?
No, of course, yeah.
But yeah, these sort of names, they sound interesting. There's a lad from England there I can see peeking over your shoulder. Who's that?
Jaden Bogle, Derby. He's 18, 7 assists and 2 goals last season in the Championship, which is quite phenomenal. Okay, you have to bear in mind you played a lot of minutes in that division, don't you? But it's still pretty impressive. Really good runner with the ball. He's very strong and he's very direct. I just like him a lot. I think he doesn't he's still as good defensively, reads the game really well. Not too good in the air, but he's 18 years old. And the good thing about these 3 names is, fitting in with the model, they've all got resale value, So what I don't mind Everton becoming a bit of a selling club, as they call it, if it's to their benefit, because I always use them as an example. It must piss Everton off, but I always talk about Liverpool. But look what they did with Coutinho. They brought him in cheap. They got the best years out of him. Sold him for a ridiculous fee. Yeah. And then they can just reinvest that. They pay for the next players. Yeah. So I'm happy with Everton becoming that, as long as we.
Tottenham's are a successful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is a wise and good business club. That is a good business model. So these players here, all players who get 5 fantastic years out, sell them for a fortune and reinvest. So I do like him. I think if Everton don't make a move, somebody will.
Is 18 too young to make an impact for Everton's first team next season?
I did weigh that up, but I think he's doing a Championship. Okay, he might not be able to replicate 7 assists and 2 goals, but if you still get your 3 or 4, and don't forget, I assume it would be a bedding in season as well.
Yeah. Might be perfect, mightn't it? In terms of it would be more of a mentoring role, but it's not just the understudy, because he's got that credentials in the Championship.
Yeah,
exactly. It's more than just a Kenny, if you like, who's like a steady Eddie who may or may not be good enough for the Premier League. It's someone who you think, no, he is good enough, but alright, he's a bit green, he does need time to
I think what we've got to look at here is that whoever we sign as a right back is going to be playing the best part of 15 to 20 games next season, in my opinion. Because I can't see Seamus Coleman playing 38 games, the injury record he's had over the past couple of years. I seriously cannot see.
I could see him coming in and playing 15 games. And once again, we're talking about I suppose it's about good management by Silva as well. He's maybe picking and choosing when to bring him in. We haven't got him. I'm talking like he's coming, but I just think he'd be a really good signing. And the good thing is we have got a little bit of time on this one, as you touched on. It's not desperate, is it? We don't need him to come in and be their first game of the season. So this time next year he'll be 19 going on 20, getting a little bit older.
What we don't want to go back to is Mason Holgate playing up right back 2 years ago.
Definitely
that's not a necessity. Any other names that get thrown about on social media before, David?
It's hard to go through my notifications earlier. There's some good ones, some good points actually. Mail, he's Genk player. He actually gets mentioned a few times within the notifications. 10 assists all comps last season.
It's the Belgian league,
yeah. But young, good age.
Is he a Belgian player? Is he part of
I don't know. Well, I did specify saying I haven't watched a lot of him. I just know. But he gets a lot of mentions.
Must be well scouted then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then that was Stokesy, by the way, Lee Stokes.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, an old schoolmate of mine, actually popped up. Yeah. He made a really good point actually. Aries from Atletico Madrid. Obviously, they've just signed Trippier.
Yeah, 25.
So he could be surplus to requirements next season. Exile Toffee said about him as well. Good, solid player. I'm a little bit concerned that they've chosen to go with Trippier over them, which maybe makes me think, is he as good as what we need?
Am I missing something here? Why is he Exile Toffee?
No, sorry, that's someone on Twitter who shouted them out.
That's his name. So, do any more names in the app there?
I asked growing up on County Road. It's been a long day.
Yeah, no, there's someone, Reece James as well. Sure, he's probably
I've heard of his name mentioned a few times.
Linked to them a few times.
Yeah, Chelsea doing really well. That was Gary Maiden who said that. El Pivot comes in with just loads. Nice one for that, Andy. But some good shout, to be fair. He talks about Mali as well. Sally Makers, 6 assists, 34 appearances last season, 20 years old. Then you've got Dagbe, PSG. Yeah, good player. I haven't got stats in front of me, but I know he's highly ranked at PSG. He's young as well, but the problem is I don't know if they'll be able to entice him from PSG.
Yeah. Let's see how that unfolds over the next 30 days.
Yeah.
It'll be
There was lots on there. One more I just want to put on there
what?
as well. I'm sorry to anyone who didn't mention out, but we got loads. So I might try and do a few tweets on them later. But I write a lot about Diego Dallo for United, or Dallo as he's pronounced. He signed last season, Portuguese lad, only 20. He had a pretty solid first season, but they bought Wan-Bissaka. And Neil, Spuddy 1878, he said he might be worth a loan just to see what he's like, playing at more regular as a right back. I didn't actually think it was a bad shout, to be honest, because from what I've scouted of him and watched of him over the last few months, because I do a lot of work for the NBA, he's a good player, very good player, and I think United still want to keep him on the books somehow, maybe push him further up because he is a good attacking entity, so maybe he's one to
look out for.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, before we wrap up, it's going to be a big week for Everton off the pitch, isn't it, Greg? But we'll just focus briefly for the stuff that's happened off it this week. Big deals, obviously, with USM Holdings, Megaphone, and Fratelli Beretta. Hope I've pronounced that correctly. For our partnership with the academy now. We've spoke a few times, obviously David as well, and us too, about Everton obviously embracing and getting involved in obviously a lot of partnerships and advertising companies and making sure this always brings obviously money into the football club. This is obviously good news, isn't it? The two deals going forward.
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, I love to use them as an example, but Liverpool across the park have got commercial deals coming out of their ears. I've needed, they've got a donut partner. It's ridiculous, but ultimately, it's all money in the coffers, isn't it? Yeah. It's all money into that club and boosting the profile as well in different markets. So, it's interesting that obviously, Fratelli Beretta sounds to me like a reasonably low level deal, and I don't mean that like disrespectful.
They're
going to sponsor the academy kits and they become, I don't know what it is, our partner, a pasta partner or something. But what I would say though is that it's more interesting, I'd say, USM creeping in to the scene again.
Megaphone.
So exactly. So it's been from the training ground to signage around Goodison Park to now it's going to be on the
training gear shirts, on the sleeves. You're going to see Megaphone. You're going to see USM Holdings. Is the next step to be to get involved in the new stadium?
Well, what's one of USM and Michelle? What's one of Usmanov's biggest sort of like things? It's steel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously you need that to build a football stadium, don't you? And I'm not the first person to come to that Clouseau-esque conclusion. I would be surprised if there wasn't any, you've got to imagine there's going to be some involvement, haven't you?
Yeah.
The training ground and the building a stadium, you wouldn't want to be involved in that.
Even if it's naming rights, David, it probably makes sense, wouldn't it? If he's involved heavily behind the scenes, well, his company is obviously USM Holdings, as Greg just said, now sponsoring the training ground. You've got Megaphone that are blazed all around Goodison Park over match day. The next step, obviously, is to get involved in the stadium, maybe even naming rights.
Well, you think so, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like strengthening that grip on the club a little bit. And also, am I right in saying, I'm not making no accusations here, I'm just curious, it's a way of maybe investing more into the club, isn't it?
Well, I was thinking that because
I'm just very careful as to what I say.
and understandably so, because we associate that, don't we, with like things like Man City and insinuations that what Abu Dhabi Group have done is try and stress allegations, insinuations that they've tried to overspend out, beyond the rules of financial fair play by sponsoring and getting money into the club that way. And just because there are other clubs being investigated on that auspice doesn't mean that that's what's happening with us. And I think, as we've reflected earlier in the podcast, we need every penny we can get at the moment. So let's just hope that what Everton are doing is they're learning from the issues that other big clubs are having with that sort of deal. The difference being, of course, that Usmanov doesn't own Everton, so of course he's just a friend and former business partner of the club, of our owner. So I think it might be where we can hopefully make hay while the sun shines in that relationship.
Yeah, well, there was a little bit of a story that broke just before we recorded, and it's in terms of our shirt sponsor, Sportspesa, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, they came out with a statement today, and they've categorically denied that they're about to go bust. Now, for a company to come out with that kind of statement screams to me as if
we're about to go bust.
We need a little bit of help here, because you just don't come out with comments like that. If you're a mega rich betting company and you are ready to take Everton to the next level, or obviously your industry, you do not come out with you just keep your mouth shut. You don't say anything, you don't have to reply to tweets, you don't have to say things.
You certainly don't do it on a social media platform. I think, you know, if you do it on the website via social media, but I'm right.
And they're replying to tweets.
Yeah, they've got form on social media.
That's true. Yeah,
that's no slight on the people who work.
No,
for
they
social media.
No, they have.
Yeah, I can't claim to be an expert on the ins and outs of the Kenyan legislative system with betting companies, and it sounds very complicated.
I think Tony's quite up on it. Go on.
Betting companies, he's your man. Look, you've got to take them on face value. They're a club sponsor. They've committed, a significant amount of money in sponsoring Everton. It's in all our interest for them to be a successful and thriving business, as you said, so that they can continue as our shirt sponsor.
Yeah. Why are they coming out?
Putting aside any moral issues about whether you want betting companies, I think that's a separate issue. I would hope that that they're right and that they're not in financial problems. Certainly, we could do without that, couldn't we? If the case is that it's contrary and that they are struggling, let's just hope it's a little blip and they can get themselves sorted, and it's just a peculiarity of the business world that they work in Africa. But we could definitely do without that.
Well, that was a big week off the pitch, wasn't it, with the partnership deals, etc. And obviously it's continuing, going on to next week. So, Blues, we hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, and if you did, obviously give us a like on all our social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And we're also on YouTube as well, as you can see perfectly right now. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Acast, you name it. We're on that, aren't we, Greg? We're on it indeed. So if you like this podcast, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to it too. Next week, it'll be a Friday night podcast, a special. We'll be recording here live from the Bramley Moore with a lot of special guests in conjunction with the Bramley Moore Stadium. Images will be released, so big news on that coming up. We'll be back next Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to David, Greg, myself, Tony and Ed, our cameraman. Thanks for tuning in.